Transactional provisions are under the corporate tax law in UAE now. So what has happened is, since it is the first tax period, but uski, the market is good. The value is now 1.8 million, let's say. But in your books, it is still coming at 1 million.
Okay.
So if you do a fair valuation, you will have a gain of 800,000 dirhams.
अच्छा.
CCA means come again.
Okay.
कि उन्होंने इतनी सारी कंपनीज फॉर्म की हुई थी जिनकी कभी अकाउंटिंग नहीं की, ऑडिटिंग नहीं की.
Welcome back to another inspiring episode of Raw and Real with Shikha. Today's guest is the someone who understands the language of numbers, accountability, integrity. Not just a chartered accountant, he is a seasoned auditor. He don't see just the balance sheets, but the story behind every financial decisions. With years of experience in decoding financial systems, ensuring compliances, and adding value to businesses, he is not just a CA. He is a guardian of financial truth. Let's welcome CA Rishi Agarwal on my podcast. Welcome, Rishi. How are you doing today?
I'm fine. Thank you, Shikha, and thanks for having me here. It was a generous introduction.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Rishi. Well, I wanted to say, when it comes to numbers, we are all started thinking, we are all doing our calculations, ki, like what is numbers all about? And when it comes to accounts, बहुत ज़्यादा पढ़ाई करनी पड़ती है. बहुत सारी ऐसी चीज़ें होती हैं, like where parents are always looking up to a child. They say कि like हमारा बेटा तो CA बनेगा, that way. So today I want you to highlight your story कि आपके CA बनने के पीछे क्या जर्नी रही, and how did you manage? Well, I know that you have worked with several firms and you are doing great in your field. So आप कुछ अपने बारे में बताइए. You have to give me some insights.
Sure. I'll start with, first of all, the inspiration which you asked me, that why did I inspire to be a CA?
Yes.
The inspiration came from one of my very close friend of my father, and he was a chartered accountant, very successful. He's no more with us, and he inspired me to be a chartered accountant. That was the inspiration which I had as a child. I always looked at him.
Okay.
And I qualified in 2002, and since then I've been working with large corporates like Deloitte, Ernst & Young in Dubai. I worked for almost 14 years here. I've worked with few corporates also in between, and now my passion for audit is such that now I'm running my practice in audit in UAE, Oman, Saudi Arabia. So we are quite spread out now.
That's so great. I mean, कभी डर नहीं लगा कि like you are doing like accountancy, numbers हैं और CA की इतनी पढ़ाई करनी पड़ती है. मैंने तो सुना है कि like 1 or 2 terms में अगर आप clear नहीं होते हो, then there is a second, third attempt like that. So कैसे होता है ये? Like how do you like face these challenges?
See, CA means come again.
Okay, nice.
So it's implied in the name that एक दो failures का कोई problem नहीं है, but you have to be determined to become a CA. Now, my daughter is right now doing CA. She inspired to be a CA. And that is something you have to take a determination. So if you are not determined, obviously you cannot be.
Yeah, like एक वो determination, वो consistency is very important when you study CA. So like, was your father, mother, they were happy that बेटा हमारा CA बनने जा रहा है? Like they were good, or they had
they
some
were very
another...
proud that I qualified, and they always supported me. My brothers, my parents, my friends, everyone supported me in the entire journey. Okay. And it has been a very sweet journey so far.
So वैसे इंडिया से कहाँ से belong करते हैं आप?
I'm from Amritsar, Punjab. Right now, there is a disturbance going on there because of the geopolitical situation. But it's a beautiful city to be.
Yes.
And you must visit.
I have visited. I have seen Golden Temple in Amritsar. Atari border भी देखा है मैंने. So yes, it's a beautiful city itself. Let's come back to the questions where I wanted to know more about what is CA firm exactly. तो अगर हम बात करें, जैसे मेरे व्यूअर्स को जानना है, like they wanted to know what is an audit. जब हम ऑडिट की बात करते हैं तो इट्स ऑलवेज फियरिंग, इट्स ऑलवेज अबाउट पेनाल्टीज एंड ऑल, लाइक आजकल जैसे भी हम देखते हैं कि अरे टैक्स लग रहा है, अरे ऑडिट हो रहा है. सो लेट मी नो, like tell me what is audit exactly.
See, auditing is a financial audit is when you are doing making sure that your accounts are in accordance with the international standards of auditing and the international standards of accounting. So international standards of accounting, if I say, these are called IFRS, which is adopted by UAE also, and these are prevalent across GCC, and most of the countries in the world have adopted IFRS. So when we talk about auditing, we are talking about benchmarking with the IFRS and making sure that it is in accordance with the international standards of auditing.
Right. So when you talk about IFRS, now a person like me, I don't know the language of finance basically. So IFRS क्या होता है? What is IFRS?
IFRS is International Financial Reporting Standards.
Okay.
These are the standards which lay down the benchmarks which you have to follow, the rules and regulations which have to be followed in when you are doing the accounting. And every regulator, like let's say tax authority of UAE or any country, they rely on the auditors to make sure that the accounts are in accordance with the IFRS and they can rely on the accounting.
Okay. So is bookkeeping important?
Yeah, bookkeeping is very important because you have to maintain books of accounts to be auditable and to make sure that you file the right tax returns.
Okay.
And if you don't have a proper books of accounts, you cannot file the tax returns.
Books of accounts की जब हम बात करते हैं तो like if you go back in time, I have not seen anybody keeping a books of account. And when you talk about a commercial perspective, तो वहाँ पर चलो accounts एक department होता है, properly they follow the structure. But when it comes to a layman, like a common man हम अगर बात करें, how important is bookkeeping or books of accounts? Tell me.
See, books of bookkeeping is very basic. You have to ensure that the books of accounts are maintained. Then only you can decide how much is your turnover, how much is your income, whether you are required to file, whether you can get any exemption under tax, yes or no, and what are the laws which are applicable to you. So everything has to come from the basic thing, which is bookkeeping. So bookkeeping is mandatory. You have to follow bookkeeping.
You have to follow bookkeeping. तो अगर आप थोड़ा इसको और elaborate करोगे कि bookkeeping में like basic कैसे हम start कर सकते हैं? How do we do that?
See, bookkeeping very simple. There are a lot of accounting packages available online.
ठीक है.
You know when you are doing a transaction, a sale, purchase, or a payment or receipt, you should record it. That is called basic bookkeeping.
तो मतलब एक छोटे से छोटा bill भी एक normal इंसान की life में like we have to grocery bill, doctor's bill, any bill we have to record.
Yeah, that is on the personal side. On the corporate side, for example, you have a small bill like fuel expense, utility bill,
right,
salary payment. All those things should be recorded. So you do a sale, you do a purchase, or you do any kind of transaction, you should record it. That is called bookkeeping.
Okay, so I mean that's great to know क्योंकि बहुत सारे हमारे ऐसे viewers हैं, they might not know. We are all coming from like obviously हम एक accounts एक budget बनाते हैं, but then sometimes it's very easy to understand कि क्या होता है, what are the budgets we have to keep in mind. When you talk about transactional provision, you know, like उसका क्या मतलब होता है? Why is it required?
See, transactional provisions are under the corporate tax law in UAE now. So what has happened is since it is a first tax period which is applicable now, so the government has given us certain transitional provisions which needs to be followed. For example, your opening balance as of, let's say, if you have an accounting year of 1st January to 31st December, so your balance sheet on 1st January 2024 becomes the opening balance sheet for tax purpose.
Okay.
So in that case, the transitional provisions are applicable. For example, your transactions with related parties, your sister companies are properly accounted, disclosed, your provision for tax is calculated, all your provisions in the books are recorded. So these are your useful life. What is the useful life of assets you are taking? For example, you have a car. कार आप कितने सालों में depreciate कर रहे हो?
Right.
या आपके पास लैपटॉप्स हैं या छोटे छोटे कुछ भी एसेट्स हैं, आप उनकी यूजफुल लाइफ क्या ले रहे हो, या आपके पास लीजेस हैं, ऑफिस की लीज है, उसकी अकाउंटिंग कैसे कर रहे हो. तो बहुत सारी चीज़ें हैं जिनकी वी नीड टू मेक श्योर दैट इट इज़ प्रॉपरली अकाउंटेड फॉर. So that becomes your opening balance sheet on 1st January 24. The same rules applies to closing balance sheet 31st December 24. Then it goes on and on. So that is called transitional provisions. That what are the transition when we are doing from a non-tax regime to a tax regime.
Right.
What are the provisions which we need to follow? Lot of clients are there, they have a lot of problem क्योंकि उन्होंने कभी accounting की नहीं.
Correct.
तो उन लोगों को बहुत प्रॉब्लम्स हो रही है. मेरे पास बहुत सारे केसेस आए हैं. इनफैक्ट इन दिस ईयर वी हैव गॉट सो मेनी न्यू क्लाइंट्स ओनली बिकॉज दे वर नेवर अकाउंटेड इन द पास्ट, दे नेवर डिड एनी ऑडिटिंग इन द पास्ट. तो बहुत सारे लोग हैं विच आर इम्पैक्टेड नाउ. दे आर लुकिंग इन दे आर डूइंग अ हाउस कीपिंग, दे आर अंडरस्टैंडिंग, and now they are looking at the transitional provisions. Right. They are looking at IFRS. They are appointing auditors. So a lot of things have changed in this country now.
True that. मतलब अगर हमें सिर्फ ऑडिटर अपॉइंट करना होता है या फिर हमारे जैसे कंपनी है, फॉर एग्जांपल यू सेड योर क्लाइंट, तो उनके कंपनी में भी एक ऑडिट फर्म होना चाहिए, दैट इज इम्पोर्टेंट, और लाइक only an expert can come and do it?
So audit is of mainly two types, I would say. External auditor, like us, people who come and audit the books of accounts. Right. And there is an internal auditor. Internal auditor क्या होता है? Like a housekeeper, he will tell you कि मतलब for example आपने purchase किया तो 3 quotations नहीं लिए. Correct. या आपने books of accounts close नहीं किए, या आपने एम्प्लॉय लाइबिलिटी का प्रोविजन नहीं क्रिएट किया, या आपने कंपनी पॉलिसी नहीं फॉलो की. फॉर एग्जांपल कि रिक्रूटमेंट के टाइम पे आपने प्रॉपर प्रोसेस नहीं फॉलो किया, या परचेजेस के टाइम पे यू डिड नॉट हैव अ प्रॉपर system in place. So that is called an internal auditor. So we as external auditors are required to report on the figures for all the purpose, be it your bankers, be it your tax auditors, be it your like jurisdictions like say DMCC, right, CHAPSA, DAFC. They all look at audited financial statements for various purposes.
Okay.
So yeah, that's a good question to ask.
Thank you. I mean, because it has to be simpler for the audience or the viewers to know कि ये actually में क्या है. Like CA word is itself is too big, too vast topic to discuss. किसी के लिए ये ड्राई हो सकता है, किसी के लिए इट्स लाइक जो अभी लाइक यंग जनरेशन, इफ दे वांट टू स्टडी सीए, दे कैन अंडरस्टैंड, दे कैन बी इंस्पायर्ड बाय योर वर्ड्स कि ये सारी चीज़ों का भी हमें ध्यान में रखना है. सो कमिंग बैक टू द रियल स्टेट फर्म जो अभी चल रहा है, लाइक इन रियल स्टेट, मैं जब तक रियल स्टेट में काम कर रही थी, लाइक बीइंग अ लीजिंग मैनेजर, आई लाइक न्यू कि रेसिडेंशियल में कोई टैक्स नहीं लगता. तो क्या ये सही है, और कमर्शियल्स में जो टैक्स लगते हैं वो क्या होते हैं? लाइक इफ यू कैन एक्सप्लेन, बिकॉज ऑफ कोर्स द व्यूअर्स वांट टू नो कि क्या है ये. हम तो सोचते सभी में वैट आ गया है, तो क्या होता है ये?
अच्छा, anything which requires a license to earn rental income is taxable.
Okay.
For example, अगर आप अपने इंडिविजुअल नाम पे कोई भी प्रॉपर्टी ओन कर रहे हो, then obviously it is not subject to corporate tax. But if you have a company which owns a property for leasing to outsiders, then obviously it's a taxable income. So that is a broad difference. Difference.
So अब जैसे like what I know about you is like you have worked in India, in USA, in Malaysia, and now in Dubai, and then you have your expansion in Saudi and Oman as well. So वहाँ पर मतलब UAE से हटकर और ऐसी कौन सी चीज़ें हैं that you know a person should look and keep that in mind कि हाँ यहाँ पर ये चलता है तो हमें इस फॉर्म में ऐसे करना है, और या इंडिया में अलग ही डेफिनेशन है ऑफ टैक्सेशंस एंड यू नो बुक कीपिंग एंड एवरीथिंग. सो इफ यू कैन एलैबोरेट दैट.
सी, coming to taxation in countries outside UAE and in UAE, you need to understand that UAE has just gone into the tax regime for corporate tax. But UAE has always was exposed to VAT from 2018.
Yes.
So if we talk about taxation structure in UAE vis-a-vis other countries, so the corporate tax is new, but other taxes were already there, like be it your excise, customs, VAT.
Right.
So these were there. So, but now it is maturing to next level. And the basic difference I would say in terms of taxation between UAE and Saudi Arabia or Oman would be in terms of withholding taxes.
Okay.
जैसे हम इंडिया में TDS भी कहते हैं.
TDS, correct.
तो TDS अभी तक यहाँ पे नहीं है. और वेरी सून दैट मे बी इंट्रोड्यूस.
TDS कटता है तो ये बस मुझे इतना ही पता है कि TDS कटता है, मम्मी का कटता है, तो लाइक दैट्स हाउ आई नो बिकॉज वी हैव अकाउंट इन बैंक ऑफ बड़ौदा. तो उसके बारे में मुझे बताओ कि लाइक व्हेन यू सेड दिस इज कॉल्ड TDS और यहाँ पे क्या टर्म होता है?
It is called withholding taxes.
Withholding taxes.
So withholding taxes are currently not it is in the law in UAE, but it is tweaked at 0% for the time.
Okay. All right.
But other countries in GCC have withholding tax structure.
तो जैसे अभी like if we are a owner in India of a property, अपने घर बनाते हैं, तो are we paying tax on that?
Yes.
We are, right?
Yeah.
तो if we own a property here in Dubai, will we be paying tax here?
No, if it is in your personal name,
personal name नहीं. तो but India में personal name पे भी we pay a tax, right? Yeah, so that's a difference इधर पे like Dubai में that's why I believe the real estate market is booming here.
No, real estate market is booming here. Not only that it is tax free, but because of other reasons, safety, security, appreciation.
Correct.
The whole world is looking at Dubai now
right
as
now.
a matter of investment.
That's so true. I mean, we all look up Dubai as our second home always. So when we talk about the IFRS, what are the fair valuations? What we have to keep that in mind? कि वो कैसे होता है? What is required under this IFRS?
IFRS fair valuation means that your asset is not valued at cost. It is calculated at a fair value. Means if you want to buy or sell that asset, what is the value you will pay?
तो अगर मेरे पास गाड़ी है, मैंने गाड़ी खरीदी, अगर वो लोन पे निकाली है तो इट विल बी अ लायबिलिटी ना.
हाँ.
तो अगर उसको ही मुझे बेचना है तो फिर हाउ?
लोन इज अ लायबिलिटी.
Loan is a liability.
कार इज एन एसेट.
Asset.
बट कार डेप्रिशिएट्स एवरी ईयर.
ठीक है.
सो वी
मतलब उसका वैल्यू कम होता है.
हाँ. इन अकाउंटिंग वी डेप्रिशिएट द कार एवरी ईयर. But when we talk about fair valuation, we are more focusing on the properties.
ठीक है.
For example, आपने एक property buy की 1 million की, but उसकी the market is good, the value is now 1.8 million, let's say. But in your books, it is still coming at 1 million.
Okay.
So if you do a fair valuation, you will have a gain of 800,000 dirhams.
अच्छा.
So for few people, they do the fair valuation of assets in the, of properties in the books, and then they will be paying a tax on that one.
Okay.
So that is called a fair valuation under IFRS.
Okay.
So there are options in the tax regime where you can opt for fair valuation or you continue at cost for properties. So if you do a fair valuation, you will be paying a tax on that, and if you don't do a fair valuation, you will not be paying a tax on the unrealized profit.
Okay.
So most of the clients have taken not to do a fair valuation of properties because then they will have a mismatch in their cash flow, because they have not sold the property, but they are paying a tax on the gain.
Okay. So when you say unrealized profit,
unrealized means you have not sold.
Sold. अच्छा.
Realized means you have sold.
Sold. Okay. So abhi most of the client is opting for this
for
one.
Not for doing the revaluation of properties.
अच्छा, तो वो revaluation नहीं चाहते हैं.
वो revaluation नहीं कर रहे. Reason being they will be paying a tax
on that.
So it depends on case to case basis. It not only depends on the cash flow. There are a lot of factors which they have to consider. For example, the tax group they are forming, the business which they are into.
Right.
So a lot of factors make this decision.
Correct. I mean, just coming like in my mind when we talk about TDS, is somewhere KYC is also related to this whole process?
KYC, know your customer, or you say client due diligence, whatever terminology you use. This is more on the AML perspective, anti-money laundering laws, which are applicable to accountants also.
Yes.
Accountants, real estate agents, your real traders in
Correct.
gold and jewelry. So there are categories of people which need to follow the AML laws and procedures. So AML is different from TDS.
Right. Right.
So TDS is more on the financial
Financial
transaction,
transactions.
and AML is more on the knowledge of your customer, whether the money is not coming from terrorism or not going into any other
Correct. So मतलब
unscrupulous
जो पैसा
activities.
basically आ रहा है, that's coming from a proper source.
Proper clean source.
Clean source.
Even now the bankers, you must have heard कि recently बहुत bankers ने problem, lot of people had this problem of not getting a bank account.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, not everyone can open a bank account. बीच में बहुत था कि like everyone can do that, but अभी नहीं हो पा रहा.
हाँ. तो उसका रीज़न ही ये है because a lot of people were going through the AML challenges. Like there were people coming from countries like Russia or other countries which were not having a proper KYC, or sometimes people from Asian countries also had this issue. So that's why AML was a problem for opening a bank account.
Right.
But with the passage of time, we have seen that now the banks are very clear. They tell you upfront whether the account will be opened or not.
Right. So when we talked about USA, like you have done your work in USA also, वहाँ पर क्या होता है? लाइक ये तो यूएई का पता है, जान लिया हमने, इंडिया का भी हमने थोड़ा नॉलेज ले लिया, बट यूएसए में जहाँ पे हम बोलते हैं कि इनकम टैक्स इज ऑल्सो देयर, सो व्हाट हैपेंस देयर?
So when you say income tax, it's very simple. You pay personal taxes. You pay tax on your personal income also.
Yes.
Whereas in UAE, there is no taxation on the personal income.
Personal income.
When I say personal income, we are broadly talking about salaries, your rental income in case you own properties in your name. So these are all not charged to tax. So in UAE, what is currently applicable is only corporate tax. So if you have a company, you are supposed to maintain books of account. You are supposed to get it audited for, above a certain threshold, and you are supposed to pay taxes.
Right.
But the tax is good. It's only 9%.
Yes. So what is the percentage? Like I was just coming to that point only. कि like क्या percentage का tax लगता है? When you said 9%, it's the corporate tax, right?
Yeah.
Is 30th September is a deadline for this corporate tax?
Yeah, that's a very good question. 30th September 2024 is actually 9 months from 31st December 2024. Now, most of the companies in UAE are following a tax period, financial period of 1st January to 31st December.
Correct.
So their year closes on 31st December 24 and they have 9 months to file the tax. So, for example, if your year is closing on 1st of July, on 30th June, then you get 9 months after that, which is 31st March. So you have to calculate 9 months from your closing period.
हाँ, तभी अक्सर मैं मार्च के महीने में सुनती हूँ कि like books closing है, like we are filing the tax or we are doing. March is a very crucial month and very much with the payments and all.
March is applicable in India.
हाँ.
So in India, the year ending is 31st March. In UAE, most of the companies follow 31st December.
December. Okay. So right after 31st December, then the 9 months. So this will be 30 December, September 2025. Yes. Yeah. Okay.
So that's a confusion a lot of people has now. Also, a lot of people has a confusion in terms of the threshold for auditing.
Yes.
So the ministerial regulation says that if you have a turnover more than 50 million dirham, you have to get your books accounted. But if you're choosing in tax, there are two options available, that you can also not pay taxes by choosing an option that your income is exempt from taxes because you are trading in a free zone.
Free zone, okay.
Okay. So if you are choosing that option of 0%, then above 3 million, you need to get the books of account audited.
So मतलब free zone में कैसे होता है? Like free zone में ये नहीं लगेगा tax आपको?
Free zone में कुछ criterias हैं. There are certain free zones plus certain businesses which are exempt from taxation. So if you have an eligible income which is not exempt, not subject to tax, then you can obviously opt for 0% taxation.
Right.
And in that case, you need to get your books of accounts audited if you have a turnover more than 3 million dirhams.
3 million dirhams.
Yeah.
Okay.
Otherwise, the statutory requirement here as per FTA is for 50 million.
Okay, so this is the exempt which is required for
Correct.
the
Correct.
finalizing the tax computation,
Correct.
basically. Okay. So now comes to like the entrepreneurs. Abhi, jaise like we talk about the small business owners and the entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, we see how it is important for them to do accounting in their field, because if I am starting a home business, I might not look at it right now, but will I be requiring it in a later stage? या फिर शुरू से ही वो bookkeeping और ये सारा steps we have to take, or we have to take an expert advice? क्योंकि UAE में अक्सर like I have seen nowadays there are a lot of solopreneurs, there are a lot of entrepreneurs are there. तो कैसे वो कर सकते हैं?
See, solopreneurs, I assume ki there is a proper legal entity through which they are doing business. So in that case, they have an exemption up to a turnover of 3 million dirhams.
Right.
They are exempt from tax. But your second question of maintaining books of accounts, it is mandatory for them also.
Okay.
They should maintain books of accounts. And they should look at their tax structure, how if whether they are crossing 3 million dirham, they should be paying taxes if they have an income more than 375,000 dirhams.
Okay, so only if they have that 375,000 dirhams.
But still they have to file a tax return. Tax return filing is mandatory for all.
For all. Okay, even if they are below 375, so they have to.
They have
like
to.
Okay, but what if they say कि हम तो VAT charge नहीं करते हैं? Then in that case, what will happen?
See, VAT charge nahi karte, but still they have to file a corporate tax.
Corporate tax. Okay. So still there is a need of this.
There is a need for bookkeeping. There is a need for auditors.
Yes.
There is a need for tax professional. There is need for disclosing your financial performance.
Yeah, I mean that's a great insightful information, Rishi. What are the checklist? What is that one thing which I am supposed to keep in my mind कि ये particularly I have to do it, otherwise इसके बिना मेरा काम नहीं चलेगा, whether it's come to commercial side or like a common man, basically we say.
When it comes to checklist, we should make sure that there are very few disallowed expenses under corporate tax. So, for example, there is disallowance on certain interest payments above 12 million dirhams. There are general rules, specific rules.
Right.
You should look into that, your interest payments. Then on entertainment expenses, there is certain 50% deduction is there. Then penalties, fines. So look at those things which are disallowed under tax. Look at your computation of income, how much is exempt, how much is 0% tax, how much is 9% tax.
Right.
Look at your accounting policies, whether you are following a proper IFRS structure, be it your policies for depreciation, provisions, leases, cut-offs, sale purchase. So all those policies should be followed. So once you are sure that your books of accounts are proper, you have taken into consideration what are allowed, what are disallowed expenses, and you compute your taxable income, then I would suggest you should run it through a tax professional to make sure that you have not missed anything. And if you are not doing a proper tax filing, there are penalties also. So there is no as such checklist, but I would advise that people should follow, you should consult a tax professional.
Tax professional. And what are the penalties they can face? Like if they want to know, like my viewers want to know कि क्या penalties आ सकती हैं अगर ये हमने proper form नहीं किया है, like if you are not
there
hiring
are
a tax
both
expert
financial penalties plus there are even there could be a custody also.
Okay.
So the penalties, you should not take it lightly. And I have a case where one of my clients, he was into business and they closed down their business. They did, I'm talking from VAT perspective. They did a business from 2018 to 2021. they shut down the business. After that, they did not, and their business was into millions of dirhams.
Okay.
They had a huge turnover, and they did not disclose it to the VAT authority that we are closing the business or we are not doing any more business. And after that, they stopped filing VAT returns, and they had a penalty of 13 million dirhams because of non-compliances for various reasons.
That's huge. 13 million dirhams is huge.
So this is one instance I'm talking of VAT perspective. So when it comes to penalties, and I would suggest don't get
Ignore
into
this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you have to have it.
You need to have proper records. You need to make sure that you have done things correctly and you are disclosing your figures correctly.
Correctly. Yeah. I mean, there's no hard and fast rule. ऐसा नहीं होता है कि like मेरा ही काम बन रहा है, आपका नहीं बन रहा है. सबके काम बनते हैं. But at the end, you have to follow the proper rules and regulations.
You have to follow the proper rules and regulations. You have to make sure that you are doing proper declarations. If you are shutting a business, you should inform the authorities, deregister, do proper liquidations.
Okay.
So be compliant.
Be compliant. Yes. Yeah.
That's a key word.
That's the key word. Yes. Be compliant. So, correct. I mean, that's great. इतना तो मुझे नहीं पता था ऑब्वियसली लाइक आई नो सिर्फ ऊपर ऊपर से ही हम बोलते हैं अकाउंट्स नाम सुनते ही डर लगता था बट या इट्स गुड टू नो इट्स अ वास्ट सब्जेक्ट आई थिंक इफ देयर इज एनी मोर इंसाइटफुल इंफॉर्मेशन यू वुड लाइक टू शेयर हमारे व्यूअर्स के साथ में
No, I would just say that keep an eye open on the various circulars, various informations which keep on going through. Be informed. Don't ignore emails which are coming from the regulators. Always look at the tax filing due dates, do proper submissions, have books of accounts, and stay free from all this non-compliances.
Right. I want to ask you, like, is income tax going to come to UAE?
So far, it's not confirmed. So. It might happen, might not happen. Too early to say.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's what I was thinking. Like, जब India, USA सब जगह पे है तो I mean, not sure about UAE, but yes.
Yeah.
So this was another tech-savvy information, yet inspiring. So I want to know from my viewers, अगर आपको ये episode अच्छा लगा and you are looking for such more information, so Mr. Rishi Agarwal will give his contact details and you can definitely contact him or write on my channel with your questions and his expertise will advise you soon. Mr. Rishi, please tell about yourself.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me here.
Yeah.
And you are free to reach out to me. My contact details are shared down on the link. So you can always write to me and feel free to ask me any questions which you have. So be compliant with your taxation, be compliant with your audits, and stay away from the penalties. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll meet again. Till then, bye. And please subscribe my channel, Raw and Real with Shikha.
Thank you. Thank you, Shikha.
Thank you, Mr. Rishi.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.